Thank you. Well, the most overwhelming thing I get out of that is the hopefulness from everybody, and the hopefulness of the way you all speak and what you want, and makes you feel like it's not all over yet. And so going on from there, our next speaker is Mark Anielski. Mark is an economist specializing in measuring well-being and happiness. He is the author of the award-winning book, The Economics of Happiness, Building Genuine Wealth. Joining us from Canada, Mark has advised governments, companies, and individuals. We are delighted he has found time to advise us here.
Thank you, Helena. Thank you, Claire, for hosting me. I'm not even jet lagged. I feel fantastic. I feel very joyful to be here, even though it's a very long way. I bring greetings from my city, Edmonton. I speak about the power of words, and my Indigenous friends have taught me a lot about the importance of being reconnected to the land and to the vibration of the language we use. I often introduce myself, hi, I'm Mark, I'm an economist. I used to be addicted to growth, but I took the 12-step program. I took the red pill and the blue pill, and I'm better now because I found genuine happiness. Now, my city, Edmonton, has the letters M-O-N-T-O in it. It means great spirit in the Cree language. My brother, Louis Cardinal, is a Cree elder, and he's taught me that the grandmothers and the grandfathers say that every child born is an answer to a prayer. Genuine happiness is about what is the prayer that we were born into? What is the purpose of our lives to be here right now? What is our role as stewards of the earth? Where is the sacred tree that we've lost? Why is the economy so addicted to growth? Because we're so addicted to money, and we don't know what money is. We don't know where it comes from, and it controls our lives. We have refused to forbid usury, including the Vatican, including all religions, have to say no to usury, because the problem with our economy is the Titanic is already sinking. But the challenge is, can we run a new operating system, more compelling, a beautiful sailing craft with beautiful men and women dancing and drinking mojitos and saying, come aboard for a better, more compelling, more joyful journey. I wrote my book in 2007, inspired by my students at the Bainbridge Graduate Institute, on the site where Chief Seattle lived. And the students said I was freaked out about economics. And I taught them where money came from. And they were terrified. They said, we didn't understand that the matrix is so terrifying. I use Neo and Morpheus and the Oracle a lot in my classes where I teach students, because most students have never heard where money comes from, or who creates it, and why is it such an addictive thing that we actually sever the relationship with the divine through something called money, and yet it's a social construct. This man, Ray Anderson, is my inspiration. He just died last year of cancer. He had a spear in the chest experience as a corporate capitalist, and said, I am the captain of the end of birth. If anyone saw the movie The Corporation, you know Ray stole the show. It's our daughter Stephanie. She's 13 now. Happiness, actually, it's funny because I was in New York with Helena, listening to the Bhutanese Prime Minister and all these wonderful people talking about happiness. But none of them actually define the word happiness in the word Greek. Oidaimonia, meaning well-being of spirit. Spiritual well-being, that's what actually happiness means, at least in the Western world. Happiness, Aristotle says, comes from a sense of well-being resulting from achieving excellence, the fulfillment of one's functions. There's the Cree legend again. Why are we born into this world? To fulfill some function, some calling, some vocation. Most people you ask on the street, they say, what do you want out of life? I just want to be happy. But you see, they're speaking the truth. The word economy actually means household stewardship. The word mortgage, you know what the word mortgage means? Death pledge. The word ecology means knowledge of the household. The word competition in Latin, competere, means to strive together. The word education in Latin, educare, means to draw forth what is already within you, not to fill you with knowledge and then examine you. At the point where child, do you remember when you were 8, 9 years old? Do you remember the dream you felt, the joy you felt? maybe playing naked on the beach or something. And where did that child go? Did you put it in the closet? At that point at puberty, where you're the happiest you can be, the happiness curve in life goes like this, and it drops when you enter junior high, when you start getting examined. Why do we examine our students? Why don't we draw forth what's already within them? So it goes into a trough, and at 44 years of age, you're bottomed out. That's probably when you started to pay off your mortgage. And then you kind of crawl out and you just ride in the sunset into your 70s. We are spiritual beings. This great horned owl flew at me, and in some legends it would be a death, death omen. But we are spiritual beings, and this is really important. We can reclaim the economy that we created, the money system that we are responsible for, that we are in part ignorant about. We can reclaim this as spiritual beings. So like Martin Luther King, I have a dream. When I wrote this book, I didn't have any idea that this could become a roadmap for changing the world's economy. I had the pleasure, I don't know if it was a pleasure, of presenting my ideas to George Soros in Kaufhof-Weser at Davos 2 years ago. And Soros said to my idea, I said, George, I didn't say it to him personally, I gave him this 2-page proposal. My friend Toby, who was Ralph Nader's campaign manager, said, write this 2-page vision, and I'm going to give it to Soros in Kaufhof-Weser, vice chairman of Deutsche Bank. And it says, let us build a new economy of well-being. Let's replace GDP, profit maximization, with well-being return on investment. That well-being replaces all this monetary focus, because well-being is at the heart of happiness. Well-being is the heart of wealth. The word wealth comes from the Old English, the conditions of well-being. And health is a close cousin. Wealth, health, and happiness. That's how much life energy we spend on those three. And it should be reversed, of course. And Soros said to my ideas, I'm not sure the world is yet ready for holistic wealth. But sitting in the UN that day, I don't know if I told you, Helena, but I was texting George Soros' chief of staff as Prince Charles was addressing us from London. I said, jolly good. Is George in town? I want to play backgammon with him. Why are we sitting in the UN when we should be in Wall Street in George's office? George should cut us a check, right? If he finds our ideas compelling. So he said, I'm sorry, George is out of town today. I'll be back to New York. But Kaufhof-Weser, vice chairman of Deutsche Bank, said something important. He said, I'd be willing to consider taking this proposal to the next G20 with enough details, with a roadmap. And this is what my passions mean. Let us build a practical roadmap to get us from where we are, where the Titanic is sinking, the debt system. The US currently has a huge national debt, which is consuming more in interest payments than the national defense budget. Wow. Do you know that? About 33 cents on every dollar Americans are spending is embedded interest costs. And I could tell Americans and Canadians and Australians that interest payment is unnecessary. If usury was forbidden, you would have a third of your week off to do what? To enjoy true recreation. I love that word, recreation. So I have a dream to build flourishing economies of well-being. Do you know what the word flourish? I love words. The word flourish from the French means to flower. My inspiration was Bobby Kennedy, because Bobby said it a long time ago. He said, we have to replace GNP with something that measures the joy of our children's play. Are we going to monetize the joy of our children's play? Of course not. But you know what? Money has no relationship to anything real anyways. It's a fiction. The movie The Wizard of Oz is a perfect story about just how fictitious this thing is and how our faith in this money system is such a tragedy. This is Luca Pacioli, the father of accounting, Leonardo da Vinci, designed the double-entry bookkeeping system 500 years ago. They would be applauding what we're doing today, saying, we're going to measure the conditions of well-being that lead to a good life. And by the way, Luca never defined the word profit. He was a Franciscan monk. Now we have a new pope named Francis. That's kind of cool. So we need to begin to measure things that matter, as Kennedy said. There's enormous risk to having these. I think the Titanic's already sinking. I think it's just a matter of time to Australia, the US, Canada implodes. The interesting country, though, is China. I've had the privilege of being an advisor to China for 3 years. And they have a national economic strategy called Chao Kang. Now, what does Chao Kang mean? Chao Kang was introduced in 1991 by Deng Xiaoping. Chao Kang actually means well-being in Confucian terms. I was in Shanghai just before Christmas, and the philosopher was telling me, do you know what it means, Mark? And I'm like, no. I said, do you know that you have Abraham Lincoln's monetary policy? Do you know that Sun Yat-sen and Mao took Abraham Lincoln's ideas and brought them to China? Do you know that you're the only country in the world that isn't going to sink like the Titanic if it chooses not to? That's staggering. So we need to redefine wealth in terms of well-being. I think we have a great opportunity. The Prime Minister of Bhutan has challenged the whole world to move to this new economic paradigm based on well-being and happiness. There's a science of well-being. Everyone who stood up today, just now, said a truth about the science of happiness, which is relationships are the most important thing in our well-being. Income and education only 10%. At your upbringing, your childhood experience, your memories of an 8-year-old, that's 50%. So we can base this new economy on the science of well-being. We can start to change the money systems. I've had the pleasure of being in Tahiti and having 10 private hours with the President Tamaru and saying, President Tamaru, you could become the first true Polynesian nation without the debt overload, without and learn Ho'oponopono, reconcile with your French brothers and sisters, and take Tahiti to its true potential. Now, Tahiti was named the Islands of Love by James Cook. What I'm proposing is that we go even beyond the economics of well-being to build a civilization of love. Thank you.